I have a wonderful friend of mine. Honestly, I have been grieving over his condition because of something that happened to him. Currently, and I want us to actually listen to this story because it is real, and I know that you can learn one or two things from it. Many years ago, he was courting with a young woman, and it was such a wonderful time. It was such a wonderful time for him. They had a whole lot of exciting moments together. And at a point, after about 4 or 5 years of courtship, they decided to get married. And they fixed their wedding, and they were busy distributing all the materials for the wedding and the invitations and all of that. At a point, the young man now decided, let me go to the mountain and have a moment of interaction with the Lord. Let me seek the face of God concerning the coming wedding. Yeah, because the date was already fixed, it was approaching. And he told the fiancée that he was going to spend about 3 days in the mountain, and then he took off. Of course, the fiancée didn't go with him. He went alone to the mountain, and then he prayed for close to about 2 days. At the end of the second day, he felt he has heard clearly what God's intentions were concerning the wedding. So he decided to go home after just 2 days. On getting back to his house, he discovered that his door was open. Then he walked in, only to discover that there are some items of clothing, the trouser, his suit, and some other clothing that belonged to another man. And somehow he didn't know what to think about it. Then suddenly he heard a noise inside of his bedroom. Then he tiptoed, opened the bedroom, and what did he see? He saw his fiancée in bed with another man, and they were having a wonderful time. The woman was groaning in ecstasy, joyfully enjoying the sex that was going on. It was so, he stood there transfixed. He was just by the door. He was just watching them transfixed. He didn't know what to do. At a point, he stood there for clear 2 minutes, and they were busy. They didn't even take cognizance of the fact that somebody else was inside the room. And at a point, he had to jam the door just to draw their attention. And suddenly, they all jumped up from the bed, and the man was busy. The intruder was busy picking his items of clothing. He was begging and pleading. My man stood there transfixed. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do, whether to start fighting. He didn't know what to. He didn't just know what to do. And in a space of time, the young man, the intruder, picked his cloth, picked his shoe, and ran out of the house half naked. And then his wife, or his fiancée as at that time, came down from the bed stark naked, pleading, begging all over the place, crying, begging for mercy and all that. And what did my man do? He calmly picked her up and told her he has forgiven her and that the wedding will still go on. I don't know about you. I don't know what you will do in such a circumstance. It's a question I'm throwing back to you. I don't know what you will do if such a circumstance comes to you. But what I'm telling you today is that that marriage is in tatters. They were married actually for close to 15 years. But at the end of it all, that same woman went back to her family. She started going out with a lot of men, and before you knew what was happening, she packed her belongings and moved into the house of another man. And from there, as I'm talking to you, that woman is married to another man in another home, while my friend now is in tatters. As a matter of fact, the last confession he told me was that he was having, suicidal instincts inside of him. It has taken a lot of prayers. We have been doing a lot of fasting concerning it. I don't know what to think. I don't know what your reaction to such a story might be. But this is a real story with real characters, with real people. And I want you to know that it can happen to anybody, especially if you are complacent. So that is the issue I want us to discuss today. What is the topic we give it? How do you react? How do you react when you discover that your spouse or your partner is in an affair? How to react is very, very important. That is what we want to discuss today. My name is Felix Okeke. I am your marriage counselor and coach, and this is still Marriage Without Tears channel. Look at the red button, this red button you are seeing right here. That is where to click if you want to be part of this channel, so that you'll be getting some of our productions consistently. Always, you'll be getting it every now and then. But what we are going to discuss today is, simply put, how to react when you discover that your spouse or your partner, whom you have been married with over a long period of time, is in an affair with someone. How do you do it? Beside my friend that I just mentioned, there are so many other people who have come crying to me during my professional, in the office. They come, they cry. It's always about this same thing. My husband or my wife is in the arms of another man. What do I do? So I'm going to tell you what to do. But how do we do this? Well, I'm going to give you 5 negative things you can do, and then I will now give you about 4 positive things you can do. So check it and then know what to do. The very first negative thing that you can do is a reaction of anger. You become angry. You become angry, you become violent, and that violence can lead to domestic abuse. It can lead to a lot of quarrels. It can lead to a lot of altercations in the home. Anger, anger becomes a permanent feature in the relationship. Because you are angry, you can never see the truth. You can never see well. You can never see back to check yourself. Because you are angry, so many things are buried in anger. And that is a very negative trend. If you toe the line of anger, I can tell you that you will never find solution to the problem you are seeking. I mean, it's very, very important. So I want you to note that anger is a very, very negative form of reaction in such matters. What is the second negative reaction in such matters? Grief. When you are grief-stricken and you are heartbroken, and that heartbreak leads to a lot of depression, a lot of despair, it is a very, very wrong approach to such a matter. I have seen people who get so depressed and they become recluse. They don't come out again. They are so filled with shame and guilt. They don't even know what else to do. They can't come out in the open again. The reaction, that grief-stricken, and heartbroken nature, is very, very wrong. That is not the right way to react in moments like that. When you discover that your spouse is in the arms of another man, and you become grief-stricken and you become heartbroken, you will never find solution that will, and you now bring solution to that incident. I want you to note that. And then what is the third one? The third one is you begin to, blow the trumpet. You begin to cast blames, cast aspersions. You begin to blame him or her. All the things wrong in the relationship is about him or her. She or he is the person who has brought this marriage to this critical position. You begin to blame him. You begin to open up your mouth. You begin to broadcast. You begin to talk a lot of evil things concerning your spouse. You no longer see any other thing. Everything about that spouse is evil. And you are ready to tell any man that cares to listen. Of course, the very first place of complaint is the family. You go to the parents to complain. You call the brothers to complain. You call all his friends and you complain. And you complain and you complain and you complain. And you never find answers. Some people will also go to the extreme of taking away all their marital benefits. I've seen people who seize the cars of their spouses, they seize their houses, they seize the key to the office, they seize everything pertaining to that spouse. They want to make sure that that spouse walks naked in the midst of others. They want to see that spouse become degenerate. They want to bring that spouse down to the barest minimum. I think that is a very wrong approach in situations like that. And of course, the next negative approach in situations like that is what I call the silent treatment. I've seen people that they become so silent. They become silent. They become pretentious. They become like the ostrich. They bury their heads in the sand. They don't want to admit that anything is wrong. They don't seek counsel. They just become silent. I have seen a man and a woman living together in the same house. They don't talk to one another because of this. And I wonder how long that will last. How long will that last? You keep silence with your spouse, you don't talk again, you mope at each other, you watch television, you don't smile, you don't talk. He comes to the bedroom, you go to the sitting room, he comes to the sitting room, you go to the children's room. How long will that last? And then when you go outside, you don't even want to complain to anybody. Your face is tightened, a whole lot of lines are drawing upon your faces, you are losing weight. How long will that last? Silence is not the answer in such situations. It's not the answer. It's a very negative approach to matters like that. I have also seen, the fifth one I want to talk to you about, I've seen people who decide to abandon the relationship entirely. They pick their bag and baggages at the middle of the night and they leave. I know of a man who in the middle of the night picked his 2 children and disappeared into thin air. And then the woman of course the culprit, was busy at this time around, running about, crying all over the whole city, trying to find her children, trying to know where. I mean, that is a wrong approach. You abandon your relationship, you collect your children, you run away, you don't care about anything about the woman again. I want you to know that no matter how hard you try, that woman will always be the mother of the children you carried away. It's not the right approach. It's not the right approach. So, I have also seen people who decide to separate entirely. I know of a man, because of this, he just decided that enough, he cannot take it. He just separated totally from his wife. And that was the end of that marriage. They stayed together for a couple of years before there was a formal divorce. All because of a situation that could have been healed or could have been amended. I mean, these 5 things I mentioned are simply the wrong approach in matters like that. And before I give you the right approach, I want to ask you, have you actually subscribed to this channel? Look at this red button by my side. That is the subscribe button. Press on it and get subscribed while we go on into the positive aspects. What you ought to do, I will give you four positive things you need to do in order to get back your marriage in order, in order to win the battle and also win the war. There are 4 things you must do. What is the first thing? The first thing is to sit back as an individual and begin to take stock of your marriage. Take out time, go somewhere quiet where you will not be disturbed. Sit back and begin to check your marriage. Where have you defaulted? Sometimes we are so busy pointing accusing fingers at one person, not knowing that we are actually the origin. We are actually the origin of that problem where we actually gave rise to them. So sometimes you need to sit back and do an in-depth audit of your person, of your marriage, of your relationship. Why is what is happening? Where is my shortcoming in this thing? Why is that so? I've seen a woman who for nearly 1 year living in the same house with her husband, and yet her husband will not touch her. Her husband will not make love to her. She's actually begging to be loved. And then by the time that woman steps out of the home, and then the man will begin to, be angry and begin to talk. No. You caused it. You have to sit back and ask yourself, what is my own shortcoming in this? Why did my marriage get to this? This is a woman who looked at all the others and put them aside and picked me out of the rest and into a union of matrimony. I mean, he had so many options, and then he picked me out of all of them. And then he took me to the altar and wedded me. At what point did this pattern begin? Emotional pattern. When did it start? Where did it start? What actually happened? What did I do? Have I concentrated so much on my work that I no longer pay attention to her and my marriage? Have I paid so much attention to my kids that I no longer look at my husband? Have I paid so much attention to whatever, maybe my business, that how my wife feels or what gives her joy does no longer matter to me? I'm beginning to take her for granted. Possibly that was why somebody walked in from the back door and is about to snatch her away from me. What actually did I do? Where have I failed? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? You must ask yourself some in-depth questions. This is a positive side of it. This is what you ought to do. When you do that, you now go to the second one. The second one is that you must call his attention. You must call her attention. I know that it may be very difficult at this point in time, hiding your feelings and pretending as if all is well. But you can do that. You must calmly sit down with him or her and discuss the present circumstance. What actually is the problem? Where have we failed? Why is this marriage going down the drain? Have I failed you in any way? Or if there be any way where I have wronged you, please find it in your heart to forgive me. What did I do? Where did we go wrong? You must sit back. You must affirm him or her and then open up, and also admit your own errors. Give room for compromise. Begin to talk to one another. Begin to reason out together. Because whoever has come from the outside is the enemy, is the outsider. You are the insider. You have both legal and spiritual right over that partner. So anything you say is backed by God in this matter. You can open up to one another. You can begin to discuss it calmly and in love. This is not a time to back at one another. This is not a time to begin to blame one another. This is not the time to begin to say some ugly things. No, 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 no. You must begin to speak in love. You must begin to speak in kindness, so that both of you can reason together and ensure that whatever has transpired does not continue. It's very, very important indeed. The third thing you must do is that you must have a heart of forgiveness. Whatever has happened has happened. It is an error. It has happened. There is no way you can kick it out of the present event. It has happened. Then you must know how to live beyond that. You must be open to forgiveness, so that if your spouse says, please forgive me, you must be magnanimous and gracious in accepting forgiveness. It's very, very important. If you don't do that, you will never make amends. You will never get that marriage back on track. So if something like that has happened, please always tow the heart of forgiveness. Now, relating to my friend that I started this with, of course, he forgave the woman, but at the same time, he went to the mountain to pray. So what the Lord has shown him was a clear picture of what was going to happen. If he had a discerning spirit, he could have forgiven the woman but stopped the wedding. But at this point, he went into the wedding all the same. And what he's seeing now is terrible. But if you're already wedded as a couple, please toe the line of forgiveness, complete forgiveness, and then begin to seek for ways of living beyond whatever has happened. Is very, very important. And then the fourth thing you need to do, please make out time for one another. Begin to bring back that thing that was lost. Begin to invest in your relationship. Emotional investment is very, very necessary at this point. Why you were about to lose your spouse into the arms of another person is because your emotional investment was lacking. So this time around, begin to invest in your spouse. Begin to emotionally invest in your spouse. Buy things for one another. Begin to love one another all over again. Let the past belong to the past. And as you do this, all the warmth, all the glory will come back to that marriage. It's very, very important that you do these positive aspects. Very, very important. And as you do so, may the Lord our God bless you. May that marriage be restored to the glory of God. May you find pleasure again. That thing that was lost, may you recover them to the glory of God. And I know very well that if you can listen and obey some of the things I've mentioned even now, that marriage is recoverable. You don't need to part. You don't need to abandon. You don't need to divorce. You can do it again. Rise up and do it again. And if there are anything that you want to contribute towards this very channel, please do so immediately. There's a comment box after what you just go to the comment box, pen down your observations, pen down some of the things that you want to be added to this very program, and also some of the things you need to be removed, or some of the topics we are here to cover. Please pen them down. It will be my joy to receive your comments and to take care of them. I thank you very well for all you have, the attention you have paid, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a glorious time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That marriage will walk to the glory of God.